His tormentor was smarter than he looked. He glanced up in time to see Pete look at Terry, and the sidekicks said it all. Pete turned to Lachlan. "You lied?" His voice rose, and his fist clenched around the magazine. Lachlan shrugged and decided he might as well be hung for a sheep as much for a lamb. There was no saving the magazine now.
"I thought you needed to win something last week. After all, I'd beaten you in everything else."
Pete dropped the magazine and shoved him in the chest.
"You don't get to pity me!"
The words were almost a snarl, and he pushed him as he said each one. He braced himself and took it. At least they weren't teasing him about Stephanie Morgana anymore. It was an easy decision to keep it that way.
"Why not? Someone has to."
He saw his opponent's other hand curl into a fist.
"You're pathetic. Picking on—"
Terry cut him off.
"No, I'll tell you who's pathetic,"
he interjected.
"You are."
And to Lachlan's dismay, he picked the magazine up and held it so everyone could see the cover.
"Pining after the Federation witch like some pathetic little kid who wants his mommy."
There was a chorus of,
"Yeah, pathetic," and, "Oh, little Lockie wants his mommy."
Lachlan frowned, but he kept his eyes on Pete. He could see the others closing in on either side, but refused to give ground. He'd end up against the wall soon enough. Judging from the look on Pete's face, he'd probably end up in the infirmary, too. So much for keeping Mr. Stavropoulos in the dark. The dorm master would ask any number of tough questions about this one. Lachlan thrust the thought away. Pete had followed Terry's lead. His lip curled in disgust, and he snatched the magazine out of his friend's hands.
"This," he shouted. "This is who you're pining for. She doesn't even know you exist, and she wouldn't care even if she did."
The other boys all crowded around to jostle and bump him, so he had difficulty keeping his feet. Lachlan opened his mouth to argue that Stephanie cared about everyone, but Pete hadn't finished.
"Do you know what's going to happen? She'll be up in the stars, and you'll go back to your stinking farm to chase cows. The closest thing you'll ever have to a girlfriend is whatever bush pig you can catch."
The others reacted like that was the funniest thing he had ever said, and laughed and made hissing sounds as they high-fived each other for his humor. Lachlan raised his head, and his eyes burned with fury. As if Stephanie would ever be his girlfriend. As if that was what he wanted. No, he admired her. He read everything about her because he wanted to be out there defending the galaxy exactly like she did. He took a step forward, and Pete froze, his eyes calculating.
"And what do you have to say to that, farm boy?"
he taunted. Lachlan raised his chin and looked Pete in the eye. Then looked him up and down like he wasn't impressed by what he saw.
"At least my head is in the stairs, and not up my ass like yours."
Momentary shock etched the large boy's face, but one of his cronies tried to stifle a laugh, and that was all it took. Terry launched the first blow and caught him squarely on the side of the head. It set his ears ringing and blurred his vision, but he didn't go down. This time, he wouldn't go down. This time. Pete's fist pounded into his chest as he stumbled. Lachlan sighted on the bully's body and swung at it. He almost landed the strike, but hands grasped at his arms and his blow fell short. His adversary's next punch caught him in the stomach. It would have doubled him over, except the boys had hold of his arms and dragged him against the wall to pin him there. Lachlan gasped and fought to regain his breath while Pete closed. They had his arms secure, but that didn't mean they had his feet. He lashed out with his boots. They always teased him about them, but they had protected his feet 1,000,000 times over, and they'd protect him now.